All right. Good afternoon. Thanks for being here. Hope you all had a good weekend off as well. A lot of good work with our developmental guys last week. We had 4 good scrimmage type practices for them. We practiced our guys that are actually playing majority of the snaps. They went for about an hour on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday last week. And then our guys scrimmage, we did about 30 plays Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Came back and did the same thing last night. So they got 4 good days in. We're going to give an offensive lineman of the week for the developmental group, and that's Johnny Williams, guy that excited about. He's had to play, and I think he's played in 3 of our 4 games now at left tackle, and I think he's really maturing and growing. I thought he had a good week. Defensively, Jacob Boyce, he's a guy that is going to play himself into the rotation. He had a really nice week. I thought he fit runs well, played well in some coverage situations. He was the defense player of the week. Offense player of the week was Dior Hubbard. Did a nice job not only in running the football but in protection. I thought he did a nice job. And so and someone we're excited about. And so the other thing I was going to hit on injuries, we should be, with the exception, I would say Crandall is probably questionable. I think everybody else will be that played against Kansas will be up and ready to go this week. So kind of turning the page to Oklahoma State, going to Stillwater, tough place to play, one of the toughest venues in the league. It's our first flight of the year. A lot of respect for what Coach Gundy's done there. Been extremely consistent over a long period of time, and a lot of success. So kind of just to preview them. Special teams, they're always very solid. They've got Coach Snyder there now, and he's got a long history of being really good on special teams. Great specialists, and Oklahoma State have had over the years. They've really had some really good punters and kickers. No exception this year. And then Presley in the return game. He's been a threat now. Feels like he's been there for a really long time. And he's returning kicks and punts, so he's always a threat. Offensively, they can hurt you with a run or a pass. I think veteran group up front, they've had a couple of injuries, but they've got guys up there. I think every one of them that's played has 15 or more career starts, so a real veteran group. And it starts with Ollie Gordon. He's special. I don't know if we tackled him yet from last year's fourth quarter, so but he's a special player. Bowman's got great stats. I'm probably throwing it a little bit more this year, but he's got great stats so far. And then they've got real speed at receiver. And so a couple different guys can really go. Defensively, they're multiple, mostly 3 down last year, kind of transitioned to a 4 down front this year. Their nose guards are very good. They make it. You got to account for them in the run game. They do a really good job getting push. I think Martin, the linebacker, is as good as anybody in our league. He plays the right way. He's impressive. And then their safety, Rucker, is fitting really well. I think he's made big strides since last year, so he really sticks out on film. But looking forward to getting back to it. All these Big 12 games, you watch them over the last weekend, and as we get into this conference, there's so much even play, and it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I think turnovers, who can score touchdowns in the red zone, is kind of determining who wins these games that are coming down to the wire. So with that, I'll take questions.
A lot of times the open week you do a deeper self-scout than maybe otherwise, and maybe make some, I don't want to say significant changes, but more than you would in a typical game. Do you guys look at that? You don't have to tell us exactly what you're going to change, but
for
do
sure.
You do that?
Yeah, we for sure do. We look at it in all 3 phases. Really, what tendencies have we put on tape through 4 games? And then what are we getting exploited at in all 3 phases? What can we do to correct those? What can we do to break tendencies? We for sure do that. We also look in, I think we take a hard dive in what personnel are we not getting the most out of? Where do we have to get better? Who's not playing that can help us? Those are some things that you really look at as you get into it. I think there's things in all 3 phases we got to do better. We did a good amount, probably more than we normally do, of good on good work during the bye week. A lot of it was pass game work, offense versus defense. So you don't know if that pays off till you play a game. So that's the hope. But yeah, we did a lot of self-scout stuff.
Personnel, do you ID a few guys personnel-wise you think you want to get more action for?
Well, I don't know. I think it really comes down to injuries. You want to You know, the guys we played through the first 4 games, we felt like give us the best opportunity. But are there some guys, you know, I think that really what that work was last week is if we have some injuries, which is going to occur as you go through a long season, you know, who are guys that are ready to go? You know, I think, and we talked about a few of them. You know, I think Boyce at safety is a guy that I think will play. Will he play this week? I think to be determined, but he's going to play as we get into the year. He'll help us on special teams as well. Dior Hubbard established himself. I think that, you know, hopefully we stay healthy. That's the goal. But if we don't, he's a guy that can make plays and is preparing to take some quality snaps. You know, I think on the D-line, you know, Elijah Kinsler has done some nice things. He's the next guy up. So, like, if we have any injury, he's going to be the next guy that's getting in the rotation, and we're getting more comfortable with him. You know, I think Day Farmer made some plays last week for us. You know, he's the next guy up at receiver too. So I think those give you some names. I don't know if anybody steps up after the bye week and plays a ton of snaps, but I think it's about guys that are prepared if we have some injuries.
Some of the takeaways from the Kansas State, Oklahoma State. Kansas State kind of imposed their will after the first quarter. What did you take away?
I think some missed opportunities by Oklahoma State. That's a tough venue to go play, and you could tell they were into it. The crowd was into it. Just watching a little bit on. I didn't see all of it on the TV copy, but I saw the second half. Some missed opportunities there in the first half for Oklahoma State. You know, they miss a field goal that they probably feel like they should make. They turned the ball over in the red zone. In both those opportunities, while they were either it was close or they were ahead. You know, so I think some missed opportunities. The score probably looks a little worse than it actually, you know, how it played out. But that's a tough venue, and the thing too, you know, they're coming into this game off 2 losses. But if you look at what they did last year, playing in the Big 12 Conference Championship game, they had 2 losses in a row too. They lost South Alabama and Iowa State, and they rebounded to get all the way to the conference championship game. And so for Coach Gundy, and a lot of that staff's been together for a long time. They've dealt with adversity before. They've come back. And so we fully expect to get their best. You know, we feel like that they'll be ready to go. But they Utah is I think they were in the top 12 in the country when they played them. And then Kansas State's obviously the top 20 football team, and you go on the road. So they haven't been playing. They've played a really tough schedule this point too.
Coach, you have Jaden Bray, former Oklahoma State. What kind of advantage is that? Are you able to pull anything from him that maybe you wouldn't be able to going into a game without a former player?
Yeah, you know, I think we've had this a couple different times now, and really, I try not to put them in a tough. These are tough games for those guys. You know, like that wasn't a bad split. I don't believe. You know, and so I try not to put him in a bad place there because that was a place that was good for him. You know, he's from the state of Oklahoma. And so I'll ask him a few questions, but I try not to put any more pressure on him going back to his home state, going back to his former team than he already feels.
Justin Robinson and Reed Carrico that didn't play against Kansas.
Reed for sure will play. Justin, we'll see how he practices this week. Yeah, but Reed will for sure play. Justin, we'll be able to tell as we move through the week. Yeah, I feel he's going to play. He practiced last night for the first time, and so I feel like he'll play. How much, I think it would be determined on how he does this week. But yeah, he'll play.
Would you rather play a team coming off 2 wins or 2 losses?
Yeah, probably wins. You know, like that is. But you don't get to pick them. You know, I think too is you're playing an experienced staff, and so and they've proven to be able to get their team back, and they've proven that multiple times over the last several years. And so once the game kicks off, I'm not sure it matters. What are you guys?
When you come off a win like you had against Kansas, in a normal week you can just kind of ride that energy, and now you're trying to stretch it out over 2 weeks. How tough is that to do, and what do you guys do to kind of make sure that juice stays up over a 2 week span?
Well, in football it's easy because you only play once a week, and so I'm not sure if there's real momentum that happens from week to week, honestly, just because there's so much separation in your games, right? you're playing 7-day break most of the time, and so I don't know if the success. Now you get confidence from those games. I think how we finish the game defensively, we definitely have some confidence. How we finish the game offensively, we definitely have some confidence, and I think that continues to build as you go through your bye week. But I don't know if the momentum from the win actually does.
Oklahoma State historically has had tough physical corners, and they are very good at adjusting to the way the game's officiated, playing up to that. What have you seen from their secondary this year?
Well, they're big. I think that's the thing. They've done a good job from a talent evaluation, getting corners that are big. Both their guys are, in the 6-footish, maybe a little over that, but they're 190 pounds plus, so they're big, strong guys. And that's what they've done a really good job of over the years, is getting strong guys. They play some man coverage. They're going to mix the coverage shells up, but a lot of man coverage, and they are physical within that.
You watch the Alabama? Did you watch the game?
I do.
What did that say about college football?
That's exciting. We got a lot of issues off the field, but the product on the field is not an issue. I think it was exciting. It's a great venue. Obviously, two highly successful programs. Two staffs, a lot of talent on the field. But the actual game of the football that's on the field, it's as popular as it's ever been. And now we got some issues and things we got to figure out off the field, but on the field product, it's entertaining. As a fan watching the game, you felt like, for some reason, I felt like that Georgia was going to make a run, and too, like, you watch it through the coach's lens, and I thought Kirby did a really good job of handling that, handling kind of the flow of the game, kind of the downs that happened in the first half. You could tell his confidence never wavered, and his team's confidence never wavered either.
Kind of alluding to what you're alluding to. Do you have any comments on what happened with UNLV's quarterback? Did you have to text any of your players and just kind of lock in to make sure they're still?
No, we didn't
bought
really.
in?
I saw it. Man, these things.
He wasn't the only one.
These things are so fluid, Mike. They're so fluid, and you don't know if what you read's accurate. The only way you would know if I called Barry, I didn't call him. But no, we didn't talk about it with any of our players. We didn't have any discussions with them. I didn't bring it up in a team meeting. Unfortunate, didn't hurt them. They still won pretty big, but nah, there's, like I said, I'm sure there's two sides to every story on that.
One more about their defense. They usually have big disruptors on the edge. What are you seeing there from?
Yeah, they've got good size across. You can tell they recruited for a 3-man front, and they've got big, long defensive ends, and their noses are really big bodies. They run well. They, I think the stats are a little deceiving just because how they played. From going against these guys for a really long time, they always get takeaways, and they're always elite in the red zone. And whether they give up yards or not, it differs kind of year to year, but they're always one of the better teams in our league at takeaways and getting stops in the red zone.
We're talking about the UNLV stuff. One of the things that was being said was there was a coach, there's an assistant that made an offer that the NIL didn't know about. Mm-hmm. What safeguards are there, say here, that allows like that communication breakdown to not happen? And also, how tough is it? You were talking about it being fluid. How tough is it now to kind of navigate this, because the evolution of college athletics is kind of kicked into hyperdrive?
Yeah, well, I think you have to navigate it the best way you see fit. I think each situation is unique. I really can't speak on the UNLV just because I wasn't part of it. I don't know what their processes are. I feel comfortable with our processes. I probably wouldn't have said that 3 years ago, but I'm confident in what we're doing now as far as our processes. We need to continue to raise money. We haven't arrived at that yet. We need to continue to do that. But I think our processes are good, and how we make decisions and how we communicate is good. We don't have a lot of voices that are involved in the process, but I can't really speak to them just because I don't know how they do it. But here's the thing: this is an imperfect system. It's imperfect, and it's the thing for right now. It doesn't affect the product. Will it eventually? Maybe. I don't know. We've got to get it figured out. I don't think we have a great system in place right now, but you never hear me sit up here and complain about it just because nobody wants to hear the head coach complain about it. I mean, seriously, they pay me a lot of money, and they pay you to figure it out. But it's not a great system, but it is what it is.
Well, you said way back in the day, tell me the rules and I'll play them.
That's exactly right, and nobody's really clear on them. Nobody's really clear on them. We got this house settlement that's out there that maybe it's going to get settled, maybe it's not. And man, the clock's ticking on that, because it's supposed to go into effect in 25, and that seems far off. But signing day's coming up, first week in December, and those guys want to know what it looks like. Roster reductions, is that part of it? Because that's going to happen quickly. Or your scholarship number's going to go up. That's going to happen quickly. So there's a lot of issues. The good thing is, I'm worried about how we can get first downs this week, and how we can stop them and get some first downs.
I was going to say, going back to this game now on the field, you joked about the Ollie Gordon performance. I mean, almost single-handedly bringing them back, the 141 in the fourth quarter.
They blocked it really well too, single-handedly. He's a great player, but they blocked us pretty well.
Sure, but do you feel like you're better suited now to face him? It's kind of been a similar thing where it feels like he hasn't fully exploded yet early in the season, and.
Well, he got going a couple games prior to us last year, and he played well early in that game against. I think he got banged up a little bit, but he played really well early against Kansas State. Last year's game, we did some really nice things defensively. Really, what hurt us is we missed some tackles on third down. A couple of them on Presley, and then in the fourth quarter, we were trying to force the issue. We got behind after we had the error where we ran into our own punt returner. And then we got in a game where we were playing a little bit of catch up. We had to gamble a little bit on defense, and then we didn't fit the split zone a couple times, and that's what hit us. That's what he hit 3 explosive runs, and I think 2 of them were on split zone, and we just didn't fit it very well. And so, but he's a great player. I hope it's Monty, you checking the Orioles over there? What are you doing? But he's a great player. He's going to be an NFL player. The thing that makes him is he's got great size and speed, and so we've got to make sure that we get multiple hats to the ball, and we can't ask our guys to be in one-on-one situations and always get him down. But he's played well this season. I don't think his numbers completely tell the story. He's going to have breakout games. I just hope it's not against us.
Close to 100%. And how vital is he for you?
Yeah, he's played a lot of football. He's one of our better communicators back there. I thought he played his best game of the year up until he got hurt against Kansas. And so we fully expect him to play unless something changes this week. But he's a leader back there, and he's played a lot of football. And I think he should have a lot of confidence coming off that Kansas game on how he played before the injury.
You mentioned obviously the earlier signing day this year. How has that changed, or has it changed anything for you guys in terms of?
Not really. We've had most of our guys committed in the summer the last several years, so it just kind of moves it up. It's going to change your December because it's not going to be as hectic, and you're going to be focused more on portal kind of things. But the biggest thing hanging over is what are the rules going to be? That I think that's the thing that's hanging over. Moving the signing date up doesn't change a whole lot.
You've got your guys pretty much thinking, got to be 1-0 each week.
No.
Yet, here comes October, and you've got Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Iowa State, and Arizona in a row. How do you handle that? How do you keep them?
Yeah, I just think I really don't look ahead to it. I told our team yesterday, it's really just about. I was telling our staff a story. Garrett's dad's the bullpen coach for the Brewers, and so last week Brewers were in town. Went up and watched the Pirates play the Brewers there for the Pirates I think that was their last series at home for the year. But went and watched, and all the Brewers they have these shirts that say win one tonight or something like that. And for a group, they really overachieved this year. And that's a fun group to be around, fun group to watch play. And again, track them as they go through the year just because I knew Garrett's dad was there, and so I like baseball, so I kept up with them. And, man, they just play the game the right way. And you can tell that they've really bought into this philosophy. Man, they sell out for that night's game, and then they worry about the next day. And it's the same, to me, it's the same mentality that we've got to have as a football program. I can look at the schedule. We keep it out here right as you leave the team meeting room, and that's a gauntlet. But so does everybody else in our league. They play, the rest of the schedule. Everybody doesn't play what we play in non-conference, but everybody's league schedule is going to be tough. Ours on paper right now looks tougher than some, but who knows how it's going to play out. But it doesn't do any good to sit there and look at it. The bottom line is we got one game a week, and we got to figure out the best way to go compete and win that game this week. Then we'll worry about the following week the next week, And I think that's a mentality you have to have. So whatever it takes to give our guys the best opportunity to win this week and win this one, we'll win this one and then worry about the next one.
You were talking about their defense a little bit earlier. You look on paper, it looks like they're struggling. But you were just sitting here talking about they do this well, they did this well, they do this well. What are you showing the guys, the offense on film to kind of keep them out of the mentality of just don't look at the
first of all, we haven't arrived in any phase. So, like, our guys they're crazy if they're looking at anybody thinking that. So secondly, but what I would say is some stats they're struggling in, but there's some statistics they're doing really well in too. And where they really stick out is takeaways, third downs, and red zones. They've done a really good job in those three areas. And traditionally, regardless of who the coordinator is at Oklahoma State, they've done a really good job in those three areas.
Closest to a pocket passer you've faced in the schedule so far with Bowman? Probably not.
That.
It's fair enough to say he's not as mobile as the other four you faced, right?
Yeah, he's sneaky. They call some quarterback runs. He's hurt people with the quarterback draw. They ran some quarterback power with him last week. I think he's sneaky athletic. They have some plays for him. The thing that he does that's unique is he gets the ball out of his hand really fast. I mean, they've only had one sack all year. They've given up one sack all year. And that's as much a credit to him, probably more credit to him than the offensive line. The offensive line's doing a really good job in pass protection, but, man, he gets the ball out of his hand. And so, he makes it really difficult to get to him, whether it's pressures or hits or just because he gets the ball out of his hand so fast. Yeah, that's kind of who they are. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe this is because he was hurt or the game got away, but Gordon just didn't get a ton of carries. I don't know if they were scheming it that way to make sure they threw it quick instead of running it. Can you do that? Can you defend an RPO that way just to get the
You can. The thing that hurts you though is you can't. You definitely don't, because a lot of those RPOs when you give away they end up being explosive passes. And that's. And the reason it looks like it, I'm not in their meeting rooms, it looks like they've made the decision that they're going to be kind of centered on the run. They're going to RPO a lot of their runs to kind of fit whoever's the seventh fitter is going to be, or the eighth fitter if they're in 12 personnel. And a lot of their explosive passes have came off that. They've thrown the glance. Again, it kind of, regardless of who the coordinator has been there, you can go back for a really long time. They've been throwing those glances to the field and to the boundary, kind of those deep slants. And Bowman gets his hand out, gets it out of his hand really fast, and he's good. He's a good decision maker in that. But I think you have to be really careful if you go in and said, "Oh, we're gonna try to entice him to throw," because those can be really explosive plays.
Change the approach at all of the defensive line, knowing they've given up one sack and throw the ball so quickly?
I think you got to play these guys saying, "Hey, we got to figure out how we're going to stop Ollie Gordon." I think that's the mentality. Is we got, and I don't know, stop's not the right word. We got to figure out a way to contain him, and I think everything in the game plan then feeds off that. But it is what it is. They've given up one sack. I mean, and so. To think that we're going to go in there and just have a bunch of sacks is probably not realistic, But we got to figure out how to affect him, because they threw the ball 50 times last week. They're going to throw the football, So we got to figure out how to get some pressure and affect him. Understand that we may not get home all the time.
Locker room. Did you meet Isaac Collins, whose dad played here?
I did meet him. Yeah, I did. That was a neat story. He actually came up and told me. And mom and dad are both from West Virginia.
Mom's from Bridgeport.
Yeah, mom's from Bridgeport, and yeah, that was a neat sidebar. Yeah, he came up. I don't know how long he's been called up, but yeah, but he came up and introduced himself and said he grew up in West Virginia. That was neat. That's a good memory by you too, Greg.
My college, yeah.
I'm old.
Anybody else?
Yep. Like a clean game with communication, technology.
No.
Okay.
No,
Like
we
how
have
many
not.
walkie-talkies do you pack?
Well, I'll take that back. The Kansas was fine. Yeah, Kansas was pretty clean. Yeah, but that was the first game.
Okay.
Yeah, the Pitt deal, no, it was a complete disaster for the first quarter.
All right.
But our last game was
Common denominator. These would be games that are away from home. I'm guessing. No, because the first game was bad too, right?
yeah.
So do you just prepare for like just?
So you
anything
got to
that could happen?
prepare. That's exactly right.
Okay.
Because there's no rules. So like in your normal like headset rule, right? So if our headsets go out, the other team can't use their headset. That's within the rules. But for the Surface Pros and for the player or coach to player, that's not in the rule book. And so even if yours goes out, the other team can still use theirs. So what you go into is you just have you have some backup plans, and that's kind of what we've done. And there's multiple ways. There's a deal where you can wear a button and push the button. You can talk into the walkie-talkie, or we can still signal too. So we just have some backup plans. But the Kansas game was the first one where we've had pretty smooth.
Headset issues? You've only had player to coach, right? Issues?
Yeah, it's player to coach. No headset issues. I was just saying, like in the rule book, like if you have a headset issue, then the other team, like both sides have to either wear headsets or don't wear headsets. That's not the way it works with the coach to player. So even if our coach to player went out, the other team could still use theirs.
No tablet issues.
Yeah, we've not had any tablet
Okay.
issues.
It's just a lot of technology to keep up with. I'm not
It is.
accustomed to that.
It is a lot to keep up with.
Okay.
fair.
What if your walkie-talkies go out? Do they have to use?
So if even like if ours go out, the other team can still use theirs.
Okay.
So we had an issue. It just wasn't connected right. There's supposed to be an independent party that does it, and at Pitt it just wasn't connected correctly. We got it back like second quarter, something like that. All right.